Alright, so let's talk about the flex of the boot. The D3 has been used for an entire season, while the R.A.D is brand new. So this flex test will be a little bit skewed. But the R.A.D is indeed a little bit stiffer than the D3. On the D3 there's a significant flex zone on the cuffs on both sides, which allows for the boot to flex forward with ease. The R.A.D boot has very minimal in comparison flex zones in the cuff on both sides. The forward lean is much more stiff than in the D3. The side-to-side flex is a little bit stiffer in the R.A.D as well, but not as much as the forward flex. For me, the stiffer forward flex on the R.A.D boot should allow for more controlled edges, especially toe side. If you think you'd prefer more flex in your boot, a softer boot, you might try the Slingshot Jewel, the women's version of the R.A.D. There are 3 features that I see in the pictures. I haven't seen it personally. 1, the tongue is not quite as high. 2, the flex zones are about twice as big. And 3, this material on the side here, this different style of material, there is no such thing on the Jewel. It's all the same flow and style of material across the entire boot, which I believe should give it a little bit better flex as well. And generally the women's boots are more flexier. So if you got small enough feet, try yourself a Jewel. Alright, let's compare impact cushioning or the footbeds. I have our D3 dissected here, all the parts removed. Now, all 3 components have to do with impact cushioning. On the shell we have the dense EVA sole, which, as I mentioned in the previous part of the video, that it bends and is not hardware by any means. The only place that there's hardware removed here is the hollowed out space in the bottom of the boot. The interior footbed that's been removed here has a stiff plastic component, but by no means is hardware. And also you have the bottom of the liner. It's pretty thin, heat moldable, so all 3 of these components come together for your impact cushioning. Now the footbed for the previous models is a more stiffer material, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing for different styles. Some people will prefer a stiffer footbed, other people a softer footbed. Moving to the R.A.D boot, in comparison, everything is all attached to the liner. And we have several components here too. There's 3 layers. There is the liner, just like with the D3, the initial part that your foot rests directly on is going to be heat moldable. It's part of the liner. Then we have our purple cush, which is I would say a medium density of foam, whether it's EVA or whatever it's made out of. And then on the very bottom we have the gel. As you can see, it has some pretty good squish in it, but still maintains some good firmness for support. The gel is especially cushy, as well as the interior liner. So this middle layer will definitely help to break the impact of those harder landings. Despite that the R.A.D only has 1 lace and not 2, as in the previous model and other boots, you still have the opportunity and the benefit to tighten each separate zone the way you'd like it. The way this new lace system works is that each end of the single lace is fixed. 1 point down at the toe, tied here, and the other point is tied up at the top here. We have our tied area here. The start of the lace on our top zone comes out, goes around over here to this other side, and inside we have a C-shaped tube that the lace runs through to zig back to the other side. The bottom zone weaves in and out and then comes up the side. The top zone weaves in and out and then comes up as well. So you can pull on each individual lace to tighten each individual zone. And then instead of interlocking lace beads, this equipment up here, there are teeth in each slot to hold each of the laces. Now on most laces you are pulling on the ends. In the R.A.D boot the ends are fixed and you're actually pulling on the midpoint of the lace. To get in and out of the R.A.D boots is a super easy process. The essential thing is to remember to unlock the laces from the hardware by pulling down on the laces. After you have unlocked the laces, just pull on the laces here all the way out, pull the tongue, and you'll have plenty of room to stick your foot in with or without the liner. Make sure the tongue is completely inside the boot, and then as you pull up on the laces, squeeze the sides of the boot, wrap your hand around, make sure your knee is somewhat straight so that you can get it as tight as you desire. Hit the tongue a couple of times and you'll have it real nice and super tight. Just a little tip, make sure you put the lace extensions around the outside of the boot and in the pockets. The loop will be much smaller and you will less likely to get caught up in it. Getting out is super simple. Unlock the laces. You can pull on this center part all the way out and pull your foot out, or you can unlock the laces and just simply yank the tongue and pull out. One thing I highly recommend is to get a piece of material, a piece of rope or ribbon tied around these two strings here, so when it comes time to get out of the binding, it's easier to grab a hold of those two laces and pull them loose and get out of the binding. A loop such as this also comes in handy when tightening the boots to help keep the laces on their correct paths. I thought I'd mention a couple of easy modifications, or rather additions, that you can make so your boots fit a little bit more comfortable. Things that I've used in the past and still use. It can be used either for slingshot boots or other boots. One thing that can be done is placing an orthotic in the boot. Make sure it's a good waterproof orthotic, or that you're removing it so it won't soak up water, get all stinky and whatnot. I mean, if you can use them for all sorts of shoes, why not your boots? So that's one thing that can be done. A lot of companies are using these heat moldable liners. That's another great thing. A lot of liners will mold to your feet after a while, whether you heat mold them or not. One thing that I'm still doing, that I personally really love doing, is using a neoprene sock. Really helps to add a little bit of extra cushion, remove any potential stress points, pressure points. I hope this review is helpful and enjoyable for you. Be sure to check out Slingshot's website for additional videos and information on their gear.